I'm thinking maybe we ought to talk about little nuggets that go into conversations that we're not always aware of, but that we sometimes use and unwittingly impose a ghastly pallor, an unintended spin to our conversations. And Jerry, could you think of one off the top of your head?
No, I can't think of a thing.
Well, actually, I think that you did mention.
Precisely, George.
Well,
I think I'm going to have to argue with you on this one. I see this one going off the rails with your little train.
Well, first of all,
whistle
Jerry,
there.
I think some people call these yellow light behaviors. You know, some touchy-feely counselors and things point these out, and it's not that they're bad. It's just that if we're aware of them, of certain verbal behaviors, it'll help us really say what we really mean. And one of the funnest ones to be aware of is actually. If we have a rule here on Fat Man and Circuit Girl that when somebody says actually, everybody has to take a drink. So keep a nutritious health beverage near your computer.
George, when did we make that rule?
What? Well, just get in the time machine and go back and make that rule.
Okay.
Okay. So if you say actually, or if you say that ought to be easy, you know what you're saying when you say actually is I know about this. And maybe you do and maybe you don't, but you're asserting a certain will, and it's fun. I think it's pretty harmless, but it's fun to count how often we say it. Things that are not as harmless is to say things like, well, first of all, because you're saying, look, sit down, I'm going to take a little time and tell you all the ways in which you're wrong. So keep your eye out for that, first of all. There are others. Jerry, you had some others too, didn't you?
Did I?
Did you?
I'm trying to figure out where you're going here, George.
Oh, here's where I'm going. As nerds, we like to correct each other. And
Absolutely.
it doesn't always lead where we think it's leading. Sometimes we say things that don't allow the other person to even speak back without having to argue with us. So, let me just offer some suggestions. If someone says, I think that the moon is made out of giant insects, you could come back with, yes, but you're wrong. Yes, but says, yeah, I hear you. Now let me tell you what's real. You might say, well, I hear what you're saying. You recognize it. You see the validity of it. And then you could say, furthermore, here's what I think. So that's just one little tactic that comes from the world outside of engineering. Sometimes helps us. Here's a fun one, though. This one's not harmful, but it's good to know about. And this is the jewel in the crown, and it's probably. Jerry, when someone says probably, it's a good sign that they're man-facting. Here's how a man-fact works. One dude is sitting around with another dude, and in this case, you and Trish count as dudes. We're all sitting around, and one guy says, how big was the propeller on the Queen Mary, do you think? And another dude who has no idea says, probably 50 feet. Okay? Now, this is what we do as engineers, particularly as men, I think, is that even though we don't know anything about something, we pull a man fact out of thin air, and then we put it out there, and the next person says, yeah, probably was. And then as a group, we fabricate a reality that has nothing to do with any facts. So keep your eye out for that. The greatest man fact that I ever heard was when my father-in-law was sitting around with his ex-business partner, and they started man-facting about what kind of shotgun Hemingway used to kill himself. They're probably a 12 gauge. And it tends to be these macho, ridiculous, when did the Mustangs start being crummy and not really good cars anymore? Oh, probably about 66, right? So keep your eye out for the man-facting. It's fun, it's easy, and it's part of being a scientist. What do you think? No way?
I like the man-facting.
You like the man-facting? Then let's
I
just
like
go.
man-facting.
Let's go with man-facting because I don't want to make people shy or nervous about what they do. I only want to have fun awareness that's
Yeah.
good and leads to beauty and kindness and niceness.
You
So
know, sometimes
let's.
man-facting gets you to the right answer. If you have enough people correcting you, saying, yes, but...
Actually, maybe they're cures for each other. The man-facting and the actually.
They just cancel out.
I love man-facting, Jerry, and especially if you've got people around who know what man-facting is and start looking at each other and saying, oh, we said probably we're man-facting. And it's really kind of a delightful moment every time it happens. And it doesn't slow anything down. What it does is it unclenches the collective buttocks so that you can actually get to the truth a little faster.
Actually?
Actually, probably. Oh, no.
George, you're opening up a can of worms here. This is going to be great.
Oh, good. Oh. Well, here we go. I do love me some worms. So that's Social Engineering, Episode 1. And I think, shall we move forward with it?
Yes.
Other topics I want to cover, Jerry? I want to cover how very, very influential and powerful it is to recommend media and what the real context of that is. In other words, when you say, you have to read this book, that you're saying something really important to someone if they really like you. And it has giant impact, and if you're careless with it, you lose large credibility and you waste large amounts of people's time. So I want to kind of look at this idea of how, in this day and age, a recommendation, especially an emphatic recommendation of media, really makes the world go round.
Yeah, with new media, things like Facebook and Twitter, people can very easily go out and say, read this, watch this video. We feel it all the time in the chat room. People are constantly tugging on us to go look at some, important website. So I think there's going to be big business in the future of qualifying all this recommendation and information and sources. And maybe we can explore that in the next...
I'd really like to. I think that that's the commodity of the present and the near future. Now that we have access to information, it's access to information sorting, and we're all a part of that network. We really care what we recommend to each other. It is the social commodity and probably a big power commodity too. So that's, I think that's kind of all we have. Wait a minute. End of Social Engineering. Time for Golf Hack.